Hello, everybody, and welcome to the White Hatter YouTube News Show. I'm Brandon.
I'm Darren.
Let's get into some news topics, shall we?
In the news.
First news topic from last week.
What a joke.
BMW now charges potentially $18 per month for heated car seats in some countries. So a couple BMW websites, like official BMW websites in Germany and a couple others, had listings for heated car seats.
Oh, God.
But at $18 per month.
I read about
the
this.
listings are now being removed, but this is not the first time something like this has happened.
Anything big companies can do to bilk more money out of their users, right? Like, this is just ridiculous,
So,
right?
all BMWs come, standard with heated seats, but in order to use the
them.
seats, you got to pay $18 per month. But although your car has the functions to do it, it's just a
just over
computer
time.
switch on and off.
Okay, I see these new companies starting now where they're going to offer people like this who own a BMW, because this is all controlled in the software on board in the computer in the car.
Yes.
Where, a young person is going to be able to figure out a hack around and say, you know what, for $100, one-time fee, $100, I'm going to be able to bypass this thing for you so that you can use your heated seats.
Well, yeah, I mean, heated seats are mechanical functions, so you could build like a bypass switch, maybe, like a physical switch.
This is just,
And then people will say voids warranty, but then there's the whole right to repair.
Shame.
Yeah.
BMW shame.
Well, it's not the first. We are seeing this move of car manufacturers doing this. So there is Lexus, Toyota, Subaru right now. In order to unlock your car and start it remotely from their app, there is a monthly fee.
Just ridiculous.
And BMW is not the first time. BMW once had a plan to allow Apple CarPlay in their vehicles, but at $80 per year. Now, that's not a thing right now anymore, but that was something they were playing with.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is they're going to get pushback from the people who their clients, and they're going, and as a result of that, they'll nuke it, right?
Or Tesla's
stupid
monthly fee for the advanced driving assist.
Yeah,
so this is not. We are seeing this move of microtransactioning features in your vehicles.
Yeah.
Oh, and the steering wheel is not included in that fee.
For the heated?
Yeah.
So you got to pay a separate fee to get your steering wheel?
Yeah. Even though it has the functions to do it.
Thank God our cars, both of our cars have heated seats. Actually, I have air conditioned seats in my car, and a heated steering wheels, all for free, right? Like, it's just ridiculous.
But what's stopping, say, Ford's 2022 model from having this?
Nothing.
Exactly.
But I think they're smart enough to know not to do that, right? Because,
but if all car manufacturers get on board with this, then, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe. It's just ridiculous. It's in today's world, especially when we're looking at what's going on with, interest rates, cost of living, everything is going up, right? So, the other thing around this, just go to Canadian Tire, buy yourself a heated seat pad that you can plug into your lighter, and away you go, right? Like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
I think this show is actually going to annoy me quite a bit, to be quite honest with you.
Next article.
Here we go.
TikTok announces content maturity rating system. So what TikTok is looking to do is videos posted will be given a content maturity ranking, and for users
who's making that decision as to what is mature.
Well, that's TikTok makes that choice. Much like the ESRB is a group of video game companies that make that. So
ESRB.
ESRB. There's always going to be someone or some company or organization that makes what is mature or not. So the question is, who does that? So users at certain age rankings won't be given presented videos that are too mature.
Okay, couple things. Here we go. Number one, I still feel that TikTok is inappropriate. Good on them for doing this. I mean, they're listening, they're doing things, which is good. But a couple things here. Number one, I still don't believe, even with this in place, that TikTok is appropriate for those under the age of 16. Number two, this is an opt-in issue, right? So in order for this to work, well, then the person has to opt in, or let me rephrase that. It's not an opt-in. It's going to be based upon age. However, there's nothing to stop a young person from lying about their age on TikTok, because there is no verification.
As with Facebook,
right.
Instagram,
all the other ones,
others.
right? So, again, I think this it's a needed function. They're listening. They're under pressure to do this. I get it. But again, it still doesn't fix the issue that because of no age verification, it doesn't stop a young person from still accessing the stuff that they shouldn't be accessing. And people will go, well, but it's got parental controls on it. Yeah, great. So, do the home sharing and that kind of stuff with the TikTok, great. But then all the teens are doing is they're creating a second TikTok that the parents don't know about, right?
There's an onus then on, parents and caregivers in order to
monitor,
again, manage, and maintain.
You know what, though? There's been a real move over the past year that I've seen where there seems to be a real push away from saying, we got to stop looking at parents and putting all this on there and putting it more on the companies. Don't get me wrong. I still think that these companies need to be held accountable. We keep talking about this over and over again. I know you and I disagree on this, but that safe harbors that they have, Section 230, I think they need to drop it. I know that we have these arguments back and forth because I think once these organizations start getting their heinies sued off for liability issues, you'll see a lot of this stuff start to be dealt with quickly because the only way to affect changes is in their pocketbooks. But having said that, we're a ways away out of that. So, if we parents are giving our kids these digital keys to the digital highways, then there is a responsibility for parents to ensure that their kids are using these things appropriately. But again, I've seen a movement over the past 6-7 months now where people are saying, we got to stop saying this is a parent's responsibility because really it's the responsibility of these social media vendors. Yes, it is. But until such time as these social media vendors are held accountable, and the only way to do that is get rid of Section 230, the safe harbors, then we parents have an important part to play.
Yeah. Okay.
I told you.
In addition, TikTok's also adding a feature that users of any age, they can attempt to filter out content they don't want to see by going into their account and putting certain hashtags and keywords they don't want to be.
That's an opt-in, right?
Well, that's for any user. Yeah. It's not like TikTok's going to ban everything.
But please tell me what teen is going to do that, right? Like, you think about it, right?
If you're looking at the majority, probably not.
Yeah, probably not. Again, good on TikTok for doing it. Important step, things that, and of all the platforms out there, I think TikTok does have some of the best parental features in place and controls or listening and doing things, but still it's without age verification, which is the holy grail. Then how do we go about doing that, right? Like,
you can't do that. You can't do that without some of your government data.
Yeah.
And free people in North America won't want that.
Get rid of Section 230. Or make some amendments to it that allow, under specific circumstances, for people to sue these companies.
There are restrictions.
Actually, what did I just see?
Companies have to.
Oh, California. I just read about it. Who was it? It was Omegle. Omegle was being sued by a family over the fact that their child was exploited online via, and so they used the Section 230 defense, and the Supreme Court in California threw it out and said, no, under some certain circumstances here now, so they've approved the civil suit, which is going to turn into a class action lawsuit for to go ahead.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, right?
Companies do have to have certain reasonable, again, most laws uses the word reasonable. What does that mean? That's a whole argument.
Reasonable, you're not.
Companies do have to implement reasonable filtering and protections in place. That is a part of those
okay, here we go.
Laws.
Here we go. I just posted just recently a major social media internet service provider, data, i.e. cellular, has clearly in their terms of service here in our country that their users cannot use it for the purposes of bullying, privacy issues, all the things, right? Well, okay, so I connect with them and say, okay, who do we report this to? Because this happens all the time.
Right. So what you're saying is somebody on a company network is doing horrible, evil, ugly things, breaking the law.
Yes.
And you're saying that under
breaking their policy. Breaking their policy, their terms of service.
Whatever that means.
Right. Well, it's clear in their terms of service that the subscriber cannot use it for the purposes I just mentioned, cyberbullying, sending nudes, all that kind of
so they're identified, and then the company, therefore, under their policy, should ban that person from their network?
Well, there should be consequences. I think it should be incremental in nature, but they clearly say that right in terms of service, it says that they can ban the user from doing that, right? But so I connected with them and say, hey, listen, great. Who do we report this to, number one? And number two, can you please provide me with examples where you took action where there's been clear violations of the terms of service? Guess what? Crickets.
That sounds like a good video we should do.
Crickets, right? So, a lot of people are putting pressure on the social media vendors like TikTok, Facebook, Meta, well, Meta is Facebook, all the big vendors. But we also have to look at the internet service providers who are now allowing their networks to transmit this information.
That's fair, because we do see ISPs, providers of the internet, they do take action when there's copyright infringements.
Yes.
Because there's a risk they'll be sued.
Yes, but the other issue here is that when you read their terms of service, it's clear they all have it.
But don't they have an exception, like clauses in there that they can amend and those terms
at
of service?
any time?
Yeah.
So but if you look at the current terms of service, which I have done on a number of cellular providers here in our country, they basically all have the same thing. But
just because it's in your terms of service does not mean that you as a company have to act on it.
No, it says it. It says if you're not allowed to use if, and basically what it says is if you are, then we can basically ban you. Now, I think that there needs to be an incremental. See, the reason they don't do it, why would they want to get rid of their subscribers, right? Because if all of a sudden they take action, that subscriber is going to leave their network and go to a secondary network.
There's also a legal issue. If they take action against somebody and it's proven that it didn't happen, then they are at risk of being sued.
That's why there needs to be action taken. But a really good example, how I went down this trail was I got involved with a family whose child was being targeted online for sexually inappropriate reasons. And we were able to clearly see that the person who was sending the message was using that specific network. It was clear, right? And so I reported to the network, nothing. Absolutely nothing. So that's what started this, right? So I started to ask questions, and questions, crickets, like just crickets. And so, it's great that these companies, and a lot of these companies are paying big bucks right now to provide education on the topics of cyberbullying, all that kind of stuff, right? But some of these companies are making billions of dollars, but yet they're not policing themselves. They're not policing the users that are brought to their attention.
They're not following through with their own terms.
Yes. Cool. Told you. Oh boy, I'm heated today.
Next
this one's a good one too.
Hey Siri, virtual assistants are listening to children and then using the data. So this is
okay. I'm going to bite my tongue first.
This is an interesting article because what the authors here were looking at is the industry of smart voice activated technology, and there's various policies and rules, but there's no industry standard, and there are rules and laws in place for collecting and using kids' information for advertising. The problem with voice assistants, though, is that anyone can use them, and there is no age verification process, among other things that have been mentioned in this article. So the question is, how safe or how private should voice assistants be in the household? And
are they always on, right? This is where you and I have an argument, right? So I'm going to keep this global rather than identifying specific companies. But, the research in this article and some of the references in the article, if you drill down deeper in reading, are basically saying, no, these things are always on, right? Now, when they're listening, they're not necessarily listening like you and I listen, but what their artificial intelligence is collecting are basically tonality. It can pick up on gender, whatever that is in today's world, age, health,
aggression,
location, all that kind of stuff, right? Which can all be monetized, right? So, I mean, a really good example, we talked about this, I think 2 years ago, where another big company with one of their listening devices, there was a murder that took place in a residence, and the police learned that residence had a home pod from a company, not important who. So they executed a search warrant on the company, and they were able to get evidence to prove that this happened in the residence and who was involved, right? So, a lot of people think that, in order to turn on, a good example, Siri on my phone, I have to go, hey Siri, boof, it turns on, it takes the command. So, however, it is always listening.
Yeah, there's a microphone always on. The question is, where is the data being processed? What's being sent? But at the very least, there are some products like smart doorbells and such that maybe don't have the infrastructural improvements we've seen with smart speakers, where the data is always being, every product's good at different, every company is different.
Right.
So trying to keep it more global. But we're looking at what data is being sent. And even if your device only sends data once a command is issued, the article here is talking about how it's more than just the command. It's your voice patterns, it's your aggression levels, it's your age and tonality, and that can be used unintentionally.
Right. So, this is why I say to a lot of parents who ask me about these things, should we have these in our home? One of the things I say, they're convenient, right? Like some of these things you can say, hey Siri, turn on the stove, or Siri, hey, open the door so the pizza man can drop the pizza in my house, right? So with convenience comes vulnerability, and the vulnerability that this article and the researchers are talking about is the vulnerability to our privacy and the type of data that it's collecting. So one of the things that I'm saying, like, we don't have one in our house, and we probably won't for a while. But parents, I know a lot of parents who've got their kids these pods, and the kids have them in their bedrooms.
Like, I mean, they were like half off on Amazon Prime Day.
What are we doing, right? Like, we got to be careful.
Kind of on the same note, another news story we want to talk about from last week. Amazon admits Ring gave cops footage without customer knowledge or consent. So it happened, according to some reports, it has happened 11 times already in 2022 under Ring's emergency request exception. So there's a lot to uncover here.
Yeah, I think, my question on the ones that were mentioned, was there a court order involved, or was it truly an emergency? So
emergency. So it not a proper court order. It's just police requested it because there was
child being sexually exploited online in front of a camera with an adult in the room, right? So they can see it on,
Yeah, or act. Yeah, there's this threat to life, for example, where most of these. Many companies do have exceptions in their privacy policy where they will comply with police requests without warrant in emergency situations.
And I get that, right? Exigent circumstances, as we like to call it.
Of course, the question is, what does that mean?
Right,
How can it be abused?
Yeah. And who's policing
We
that?
have seen some reports that some police have misused and misrepresented the seriousness of their cases just to get past the warrant process.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but the reality is, if you store your footage in Ring Amazon servers, they have worldwide exclusive access to use and share that footage.
Yeah, and it was interesting because if the police go to the owner can release. So we see this all the time. A good example, we had another incident here in Victoria where there was a significant traffic incident where somebody was seriously injured. And one of the first things that police do is they go on and say, hey, if anybody has any dashboard camera footage of this, because so many cars have, like mine as a good example, can you please forward us? So if I'm the owner of it and I have it in my database, then I can consensually give it to the police.
Police can accept anything, right? Police asking for things, there are checks and balances in place for that.
Didn't we talk about this about a year and a half ago, where there's this program in the United States where Ring were giving police departments these cameras so that police could give them to neighborhoods?
Oh, yeah. Maybe it was 2 years ago now or something, where Ring had, one of our previous shows, where Ring had a program partnering with police because Ring was sharing information. So... Oh, no, and cops and police departments got kickbacks. Right? So police would sell them and they would get kickbacks.
I know, I don't think there was kickbacks.
No, there were kickbacks.
Was there? But it allowed the police to have access to those cameras, right, in the neighborhood, right? Like a neighborhood watch kind of a thing.
Not like exclusively control access, but it was in the Ring network, which Ring obviously plays nicely with police requests.
Because I know that Ring has a program that if you catch something on a video, say somebody of a porch pirate, right, like stealing something, you can send that video and picture to everybody in the Ring network.
I think Ring has like a neighborhood program.
Yeah, like a neighborhood program,
like a digital neighborhood watch type of thing.
Exactly. So I can see, and again, this is where bad case law comes into play, where maybe law enforcement will go, maybe this is something that we can use to our advantage without warrant.
Well,
right?
there
we got to be careful.
Some current legal options being presented, I think, in San Francisco. Yeah. It's not in this show notes because we're running out of time, but some lawmakers are looking at in certain cities to allow police to have access to private cameras. Yeah,
it's interesting. Again, slippery slope. I mean, we're kind of getting to George Orwellian, right? 1984, where the authorities have capability to watch us at all. Like what's going on in China right now, no matter where you go. Like we got to be careful of this kind of stuff. And however, having said that, video evidence is sometimes best evidence, and it definitely does there's a benefit for law enforcement, especially in serious incidences. What the research, when I was in policing, we looked at CCTV before I retired. And, when we looked at the research, it basically said, hey, listen, these cameras aren't great crime prevention technologies, but what they are, they're great after action reporting and accountability platforms, because you catch the people in the act. And as a result of that, you now have a picture of who they are to help identify them. Right. So there's no doubt that this technology can definitely help those in law enforcement from an identifiable or identifying a suspect for the purposes of conviction, or even being used to say, no, it wasn't the person, right? To be used to prove that they weren't responsible for the crime. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So anyways.
And
a little heated.
Those were our news topics from last week. There is a new podcast out as well.
It is. Yeah. It went up yesterday. I tried a Sunday release just to see the difference, because I'm trying to find a sweet spot right now. But it's up right now, and it's on the issue of technology, bedrooms, sleep, and reducing harm.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You can check that out in the link down below. Yeah. From White Hatter team, thank you all so much, and we'll see you all next time.
See you, everybody.
Bye-bye.